Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. It is November the 20th. So I have just finished listening to the opening statements and the questioning by Dan Goldman of Soulprint. So that sound you hear is the sound of him throwing everybody under the bus. This is a man who is not going to go down by himself, and he is going to bring down as many people as he can. And I don't really actually get the feeling that it's malicious. I think that he is just one of those people that is actually in a position to clearly talk about exactly how widespread this was, exactly how many people knew what was going on or what Trump was demanding via Rudy Giuliani. And he's just the one who's going to say, no, they knew. They knew. Everybody knew. So that's interesting. I'm wondering if as he's giving testimony, somebody isn't packing up his ambassador's office and kind of saying, days are probably numbered here, buddy. So needless to say, that's my question. I simply want to know kind of how the rest of his testimony is going to go, and I want to know what the ramifications are for him. So, come on down. I've got a question. All right, a couple more quick shuffles. So we're focusing on Soulprint. He has made he's not been the slightest bit shy about calling out not only Giuliani, but more importantly, Pompeo and the State Department. So that's right up into and including the fact that, he can't get his documents from them to refresh his mind and memory because they won't give them to him. So let's take a look. Let's just see what's going on. Oh, I'm just going to move my speaker forward. Let's just take a look and see what is going on in Gordon Sondland's world now, and what sort of the immediate future or the aftermath, if you will, of his testimony today is going to bring. So, effect of Gordon Sondland's testimony. Effect of Gordon Sondland's testimony. Effect of Gordon Sondland's testimony. Sometimes you just have to marvel at the brilliancy of the way the cards come out. Truly, you really have to. This almost tells the entire story of what's going on. He is releasing secrets. He is uncovering that which was in the dark, which was unknown, where there was hazy or confused information about it. He is shining some light on that. He is talking and clearing up and adding clarity to the whole yes, quid pro quo, no quid pro quo, bribery, extortion, what was this, how was everybody reacting? So he has information with regards to what was going on behind the scenes. I mean, make no mistake, other people have that same information. Trump is just forbidding them to talk, right? Pompeo knows this stuff, Mulvaney knows this stuff, Pence knows this stuff, but they're not allowed to talk. So he really is one of the definitive sources of that direct communication in terms of what was going on between Giuliani, Trump, and in turn what he was being told and what Trump was demanding from Ukraine. It was interesting. He spoke about a conversation that he had with Trump where he said he asked an open-ended question, and the question was, what do you want from Ukraine? And Trump's reply was, there's no quid pro quo, there's no quid pro quo, and I don't know what I want. Hello, Mr. Delusional, okay? This is a man who is spinning so out of control. he can't formulate his thoughts at that point, okay? He can't pull it together. He just knows he's in trouble, and, you know, now he has a phrase in his head that's going to use 100 times, which is quid pro quo, which really should be just called bribery. And that's just what he's going to keep on talking about. And of course, the reason for this is because of his relationships with foreign leaders of countries who he believes are his buddies, or he believes that he is doing them favors because he's a nice guy, or they basically put the screws to him and said, you do this or else. You know, take your pick, or some combination of the three. So that's what these 4 cards are telling us to start with. Let's carry on. The communication, the story that is being told, the way it is being delivered, I actually see in this instant, I see this King of Wands as Dan Goldberg, okay? Goldman, sorry. You know, where he has just this very sort of fluid way of asking questions and pulling the story together so that the swords land where they need to, and whether those swords are just swords of truth or they're swords of clearing up the confusion, or ultimately if they're swords that is really going to bring down several officials within the United States. But either way, he is very gifted at that narrative, at telling that story. The Magician here is literally talking about the tools that Sonlin has. Okay, so kind of like the tricks he has in his bag, or the things that he is able to talk about. And at this point, you really, with some clarity, start to see that Sonlin has decided that he needs to cover his own butt and make sure that he is protected from this insanity. It was interesting how cavalier he was about the unsecured phone. Oh, well, Trump was on an unsecured phone too. Oh, yeah, we always did that. If it wasn't like absolutely classified, you know, we just chatted. Terrifying. And let's not even discuss the whole lock her up situation because, you know, Hillary used a private email account, from what I understand, mostly for information about her daughter's wedding. But you get my point, right? It's like, apparently what is good for the goose in no way at all applies to this particular gander. This card is talking about the Six of Cups is actually talking about the reconstruction of past events, and for the people of the United States and frankly the world to get some real clarity about exactly what was going on with the Ukraine situation. And of course, you know, this bizarre kind of incorporating the Russian talking point into the way Americans were talking about Ukraine. Yeah. Sonlin is not some, you know, innocent bystander in this, okay? He was not as forthcoming as he should have been. But I actually give some credence or some credit to his explanation that a lot of the documentation was not handed over to him despite multiple requests by the State Department. They wouldn't give it to him. And so some memories are foggier and he doesn't have a visual, like a note or a text message, to sort of bring it all back with clarity. I actually find that fairly credible. Okay, maybe he uses it a couple times too often, but overall, I actually find that a reasonable explanation. But he is in trouble. He is just in trouble. And at this point, he is just trying to get his own stuff in order and extricate himself as best as he can. The result is going to be that his testimony bears significant fruit. And some of it is simply that he is corroborating what other people said, or other people have already corroborated what he is going to say or is saying now. But there's going to be abundance of information, of forward movement, if you will, as a result of his conversation. I'm also seeing Fiona Hill is popping into my head. So I want to suggest that she also is going to have a wee little bit of a seismic effect, which is exactly what I think Sondland's testimony at the end of the day is going to feel like. Sort of like the earth shifted a little bit under Trump and his evil playmates. So, where does that put Sondland, do we think? Put Sondland in big trouble with the government and overseas people. Bottom line, he has lost any reputation that he had. He has been discredited literally almost by his own words. His inexperience as an ambassador is, or any kind of sort of high government official, really seems to be bleeding through. I mean, the phone calls, the very cavalier text messages. If you compare his testimony, for example, to previous testimony by other people, particularly, Taylor and Morrison and Vindman, they were very careful about what they said and how they said it. They were diplomatic because they're diplomats. Where you can see with Sondland, it's much more, free flowing, and he's not concerned about things like, secure phones, and he's not really concerned about being particularly accurate when he sends text messages out. And so it's now coming back, and it's tripping him up. I would not be surprised if literally before the end of this year, Trump is not, starting to either flat out replaces him or fires him, or you hear a lot of that, no longer quite has the confidence of the president, like that scenario. But his days are definitely numbered in terms of his government or Trump association and affiliation. And in some ways, he almost is painting himself into a corner, or he's sort of putting himself in restraints himself, because it's almost as if in some cases he's actually not aware of the pitfalls of some of the stuff he's saying or the way he is presenting it. So, Ambassador Sondland, I believe, is not going to be ambassador for too much longer. This testimony, the testimony of this week, the testimony of last week, what it is doing is it is building strength for the Democrats. It is bringing clarity. It is bringing clearness. If things are coming into focus now, especially for people who maybe were not as, mindful or paying attention, kind of busy living their own lives. So that information is starting to bleed out in ways I think that you're going to see amplifying. Okay, they're going to grow. That that understanding of what happened and why it is so wrong is actually going to become more and more apparent and more prevalent to people who perhaps, weren't paying a lot of attention. They get that what he did was absolutely flat out wrong. The Republicans are trying so hard. They are trying so hard to get Trump out of the choppy water that he is in, the turbulent place he is. It's not going to work, okay? They can't spin it enough to sort of put Trump in the clear. Pompeo is not in the clear. Mulvaney is not in the clear. I suspect at some point Barr it's going to become clear what his role in this was, and he's not going to be in the clear. So, there we have it. The secrets are going to continue to come out. There's going to be a balance of information. So really, by the average American person, the hearings are not going to be looked upon. They're going to be looked upon as partisan, but not particularly biased. People are going to be able to sort of read between the lines and see what's going on. So there is definitely victory coming forth as a result of the testimony that he has given. And frankly, the victory, I don't believe is actually his victory. And there's Trump. So let's see how Trump is feeling about life. Ooh, Trump's a little sad. He's a little concerned. He's a little worried. He's got a lot of things that he just doesn't want let out. And he's starting to see that he can only keep a lid on so many people for so long, but there's going to be other people who do what is right. And in doing what's right, they're also exposing the people who were doing what was wrong, with kind of more clarity. I mean, Sondland's opening statement was on and on about the State Department refusing to hand over the documents that would have helped him, more clearly remember what was going on. So it just makes the State Department, and by extension, of course, Trump, look as if the only trick in their bag is obstruction. That's going to be the message that comes out of this, because witnesses are saying, I couldn't get it. They wouldn't give it to me. They wouldn't release it. So what does that tell you? Expect for Trump to tweet this afternoon. I don't know. Maybe he's going to call him Sondland a never Trumper, an inadequate ambassador. And hey, and let's all wait for it. He's probably going to try to use the line of, I don't really know him that well. Who is this guy? The coffee boy? Oop. Okay, it's never good when you get both the King of Pentacles and the Fool side by side, because both of these cards are my Trump cards. And over top of it, you have the squabbling and the fighting and the communication messages that aren't clear, that aren't holding. They're just stirring up and muddying the water. That's all they have. That's the only card in their arsenal to play. Okay, that's it. So ultimately, those in power, those in the right, are going to end up having that victory and that celebration. Now, does that literally mean that Trump, there are articles of impeachment? Yes. It goes to the Senate? Yes. Does that mean that the Senate is going to convict and remove him from office? I'm not getting that clarity on the cards, but when I ask my pendulum, I keep getting a yes. And so on some level, I'm sort of expecting something else fairly significant to happen or be exposed that really puts the Republicans in such a precarious position that some of them just feel they absolutely have to vote with the Democrats. Whether they get enough of them, I guess that will remain to be seen. But as I said, my pendulum is pretty darn clear that for right now, anyways, the answer is yes, he will be removed. We'll see. Yeah, you know what? This is the thing, right? Trump is just getting more and more wound up and more emotional and kind of more over the top because he understands that stuff is coming out that was supposed to be private or secret or classified. And he understands that people are starting to have a real emotional reaction to what they're hearing. People are not just taking this in their stride. People are not going, oh, whatever, that's Trump, or oh, that was baked into the cake. I absolutely hate that expression because you know what? It wasn't baked in the cake. What it was people who had stars in their eyes because he was a reality TV star, as opposed to, they weren't going to hold him against it. They didn't hold it against him because as an insult to many TV personalities, mindful of the Harry Weinsteins, or whatever his name is. Not all of them have the morals of an alley cat. But I guess if you actually believe that The Apprentice was real life, then it's easy for you to think that having the morals of an alley cat is perfectly acceptable for, a star. God help us all. So as I was watching, okay, there's the judgment card. As I was watching the hearings, I just kept hearing, hello, tower moment. Because that's what this hearing is doing. And it's not that it, in and of itself, is exposing stuff, but it is corroborating other testimony from other people. And so it gains strength. Also, because of the way he communicates, there kind of really is, it's more human, if you will. It's more casual. It's more the way, the average person is going to understand it. Sometimes when diplomats speak, they're so careful that in some ways you almost kind of get lost about what the actual answer is and does anybody remember the question, because they're so careful. Not to say that some of them have not had brilliant moments on the stand, because here, truth matters. Way to go, Lieutenant Colonel. So yeah, this is going to continue to roll forward. The burden for the Republicans is going to get heavier and heavier and harder to push back against. And the judgments are going to start coming. I'm really curious to see what the next polls about, who supports the impeachment and who think, and what percentage of people think he should be removed from office, etc. Really curious to see how those numbers are moving and shifting. And honestly, if they're not moving and shifting, it doesn't even concern me, because they're going to move and shift, I think is kind of the point. Okay. So, thank you so much for finding me, joining me, watching me. The comments are lovely, smart and witty and funny. So I really appreciate and enjoy them. My numbers are rising. I'm almost at 5,000. So let's keep our fingers crossed that we can hit that, soon. So that's exciting for me. And of course, I'm filled with gratitude for the fact that you have supported me and have made that happen for me. So, thank you. And for now, take care, be well, we'll see you soon. Bye.